Hello and welcome to my final book review. Today I'll be reviewing The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This book was published in 2010. It is the first part of a epic fantasy series known as the Stormlight Archive. As you can see, this is only half of the book. This is about 636 pages, and the other half put it together is a little over 1,200 pages. So it's a very big book. There's a tick on my arm. Wow, that's very cool. Anyways, like I said, it is the first book in the series. It was written by Brandon Sanderson. And the summary of the book is kind of hard to explain. When I first heard of this book, I pretty much just picked it up at random. I got it for Christmas, and I asked for it, of course, because I heard it was good, but I didn't really know what it was about. I just looked into it and then gave it a shot. I do that with a lot of books. I don't really know anything about them, and then I read them because I look at their genre, and then I like that genre, so I'll take it. You know, this is a fantasy novel, and fantasy is one of my favorite genres. Brandon Sanderson's a pretty well-known author. He's written many books, like the Mistborn series. There's quite a bit of them, but the book series so far, the Stormlight Archive, that's what this is, as I mentioned earlier. Brandon has plans to write 10 of the books. And they're all about this length. There's 4 books out now with 2 novellas in between. The novellas aren't as big as the other 4. They're about, I don't actually know their length to be precise, but I know that they are very lengthy books. This one took me a while to read. I like to read a lot, but recently I haven't been able to read as much due to schoolwork and an actual job. I'm going to try and explain what this series is about. Basically, it takes place in a different world. It's nothing like Earth. It's a world called Roshar. And it basically follows, let me see, 1, 2, 1. So it basically follows 4 people, like 4 different perspectives in this series. It's going through a war between races of this country called Alethkar and a race. Alethkars basically being human, and the other race, they're Parishendi, very human-like, but they have different traits and different personalities, and it's this war between these 2 races that this book's main focus is upon. It's really hard to explain. You're given 4 perspectives of different people with different lives, but they're all connecting to this one war somehow. I really don't know how to explain it. What's really nice about this book, though, I think, is it's one of those books where you open it up and it gives you no true introduction to the world of an explanation of what you're reading. It just kind of throws you in there, and as you read it, you kind of have a better understanding of what's going on, which, me personally, I like that a lot in books. I find that very interesting, because you're not sure what you're reading, but as you read more and more, you have a better understanding of it. And I like that a lot. There's basically 2 social castes within the book that are defined, not at the beginning, but as you progress into reading it, you start to understand what it means. It shows there's a difference between your wealth is pretty much determined by the color of your eyes. So if you were to have light eyes, you'd be more wealthy, perhaps royalty, you know. They're like the generals of our armies, the kings, the princes, but you wouldn't see a dark eye in that position. Now there's, you know, higher up light eyes and lower light eyes. And the dark eyes are kind of like the working class, the people who are poor. There's a more abundance of them, but you're born into your caste based off the color of your eye. So if your parents have dark eyes, then you will have dark eyes. It's kind of how it works. It's a very interesting book because it introduces a lot of creativity that is not in, you know, our world today, it seems, you know, because it's a fantasy book. So a lot of time fantasy is similar to what we're used to, but there's a lot of differences. And I think it's best to go into reading this book without any explanation of what's going on, because then you start to understand what's happening and you're introduced to this new world, and it's really, truly amazing book. As you can see, I accidentally split it in half. Since it's such a big book, it took a while to read, and it was split open like this where the spine was broke, and then one day I just opened it up and it was like this. So I don't really know what happened with that. There's my dog causing a big ruckus, I see. Let me read the summary at the end of the book to kind of give you a better explanation. I'm pretty sure it's taught from a perspective of a extraterrestrial being, kind of like a god, because this summary is in first person, but yet there's no one actually saying it. You're only introduced to this person, kind of like the first chapter. It's a prologue, but that's about it. And it kind of hints at that person being the like, you know, narrator or one of the four main characters, even though there's 5 of them. So let me read this. I long for the days before the last desolation, before the heralds abandoned us and the night's radiance turned against us, when there was still magic in Roshar and honor in the hearts of men. In the end, not war but victory proved the greatest test. Did our foes see that the harder they fought, the fiercer our resistance? Fire and hammer forged a sword, time and neglect rusted away, so we won the world, yet it lost it. Now there are form who we watch, the surgeon forced to forsake healing and fight in the most brutal war of our time, the assassin who weeps as he kills, the liar who wears her scholar mantle over a thief's heart, and a prince whose eyes open to the ancient past of thirst for battle wanes. One of them must redeem us, one of them will destroy us. So that's the summary you get upon the back of the book. It's you know, it's really mysterious, but it really kind of hooks you on. It kind of tells you that, you know, who the 4 main characters are: a surgeon, an assassin, a liar, and a prince. But they don't tell you who that is. So as you read it, you figure out what it means and who each character has their purpose. And it's really interesting. There's some... The whole title, the Stormlight Archive, it kind of comes about... it's not perfectly explained in the book because it's like to keep mysterious, to keep you wondering, but there's this sort of entity called Stormlight, and every so often where it takes place, these storms, these really great storms come about, called high storms, and these really fierce winds and really powerful, destructive rain, stuff like that. I just pulled another tick off, that's why I'm kind of distracted. But there's stormlights, like this form of energy, and it could be used in many ways, and it kind of follows the use of that through certain things. I'm really bad at explaining the book. It seems like I might not have read it, but I have. My book is all tore up from reading it so long. It took me quite a while to read. It's about 1,200 pages, so that would be the biggest book I've ever read. Second place being Lord of the Rings. It's about 1,000 pages, and technically it's split into 3 books. But this one is biggest by far. If you see on it, the words are not very big, so it's not, I wouldn't call it an easy read. Definitely takes a mature audience. There's quite a bit of violence in it, a lot of fighting within the book. So it's kind of gory in the same sense. It's not meant for a younger audience. But that being said, it's really good. I don't want to say too much before, because I don't want to spoil it, really, because it's so interesting, and it's better just to go in blind. It's this different world where terrain is different. It's like planet Earth, but kind of like not in a way. It's like it describes plants that hide from you and can move, different aspects of life like that. Just a bunch of crazy stuff. I'm really bad at reviewing books like this, but it's the best way I can approach it. A big theme of this book is honor and defining who you are. That's one thing that's great, is the character development in this series. As the book progresses, and I will admit the first half of this book moves pretty slow, but there's a lot of action within it. But the character progression, as you read it, you begin to understand more and more about these characters and their identities and what makes them them, and how they become who they are. It's honestly a very interesting read. I'd highly recommend it. This book was published in 2010. In the 11 years now that it's been released, 6 books have been produced. They're all about the same length. I think the ones preceding this one is actually like a few hundred pages longer. But so I'm actually like really excited to start reading those books. I'm gonna take my time, not read them all back to back, just so whenever I don't have to wait as long for the other books to come out, because that's how good they are. I really don't have much else to say about it. It's called the Stormlight Archive, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I even really like the cover art on it. I know it's not important, but it's just pretty. This scene here, there's a main like setting. It's called the Shattered Plains. It's this land full of plateaus, and there's two knights standing upon plateau. Really interesting. The fighting aspect of this book, the action within it, can be really intense and really difficult to put down when you're reading it. I'll admit to that. It really took me a long time to read, though. I will say that it's like one of those books that you enjoy so much it's hard to put down, but at the same sense it's taken you forever to read. So the story is really stretched out, but it's given amazing detail, and it's written beautifully. Brandon Sanderson did an excellent job writing it, and I really can't wait to read the other books. The thing about reading books in a series, it's hard to give it a defiant review, because you kind of have to review them all in sequence to get the full effect. But that being said, this book has by far been one of the best books I've ever read. The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Thank you and goodbye.